I canceled my daughter's wedding because no one else would. My daughter Emma had been dating Marcus for 2 years before he proposed. He worked in real estate, drove a nice car, and always brought flowers when he came to family dinners. Everyone loved him. My husband said Marcus was the son he never had. My sister called Emma the luckiest girl alive, but something about Marcus made my stomach twist in ways I couldn't explain. Little things that nobody else seemed to notice. The first thing was his family. Marcus said his parents lived in Seattle and couldn't travel often due to his mother's health issues. In 2 years, we'd never met them. Not once. When I suggested we fly out to visit, Marcus always had a reason why it wasn't a good time. His mother was having tests done. His father was traveling for work. The timing just never worked out. I let it go because Emma was happy. She was 28, had a good job, and Marcus treated her well in front of us. But I started paying closer attention. At the engagement party, Marcus spent 20 minutes outside on his phone. When he came back in, I asked who he was talking to. He said it was a work call, but I'd walked past the window and heard him speaking softly, calling someone sweetheart. His voice had a tenderness I'd never heard him use with Emma. I told my husband what I heard, and he laughed it off. He said Marcus probably has a nickname for his real estate clients. I felt crazy for even mentioning it. The wedding planning started, and Marcus insisted on handling the guest list for his side. He said he had 60 people coming, mostly family and college friends. But when Emma asked for addresses to send invitations, he kept stalling. He'd get them next week, then the week after. Finally, he gave her a list, but something felt off about it. I did something I'm not proud of. I looked up a few names from his guest list online. 3 of them didn't seem to exist anywhere. No social media, no work profiles, nothing. When I mentioned it to Emma, she got defensive. She said I was being paranoid and that not everyone lives their life online. Marcus overheard, and his expression flickered for just a second before he smiled and said his family was very private. Old-fashioned, that's all. But I saw that flicker, that brief moment where something cold passed behind his eyes. 2 months before the wedding, I drove to the address Marcus had listed as his apartment. He told Emma he lived in a high-rise downtown. When I got there, it was a UPS store. Just rows of mailboxes and a counter selling shipping supplies. I sat in my car for 30 minutes trying to understand what I was looking at. I hired a private investigator. I know how that sounds. My husband would have been furious if he knew, but I needed answers that nobody else was looking for. The investigator called me a week later. She said Marcus had no credit history before 5 years ago. No records at all. It was like he appeared out of nowhere at age 32. She found 3 other women in different states who'd been engaged to men matching his description and photos. All the engagements ended abruptly. 2 of the women had given him large sums of money for business investments that never existed. The third had added him to her bank accounts 2 weeks before he vanished completely. She also found something else, a marriage certificate from Nevada. Marcus was still legally married to a woman named Diane, who'd filed a police report 3 years ago, claiming he'd cleaned out their joint accounts and disappeared. I took everything to Emma. I showed her the documents, the police report, the other women's stories. She looked at it all and then looked at me with tears streaming down her face. She said I was trying to ruin her happiness because I couldn't stand seeing her succeed at something I'd failed at. She said my own marriage problems were making me project onto hers. Then she told me to leave and not come back until I apologized. My husband sided with Emma. He said I'd gone too far, invaded Marcus's privacy, and manufactured a conspiracy theory because I couldn't let go of my daughter. He slept in the guest room that night. I was alone with evidence that nobody would believe. The wedding was in 6 weeks and the deposits were paid and the dress was altered and the flowers were ordered. Everyone was going forward like nothing was wrong. So I made the calls myself. I canceled the venue first, then the caterer, then the florist, the photographer, the DJ. I dismantled every piece of my daughter's dream wedding while my phone exploded with calls I didn't answer. The confrontation happened 3 days later when Emma showed up at my house with Marcus beside her. She was screaming before she even got through the door, but Marcus was calm, too calm. He stood behind her with his hands in his pockets and watched me with those cold eyes. Then he smiled and said, "We should talk privately, just the 2 of us," because he had some questions about exactly what I thought I knew. But what he said next made me realize I'd made a terrible mistake. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below.